Evening, everyone. Apologies for the slight delay. It's with us. I think it's always the technicalities, but it's always fun. So, Nitin, welcome back. We are again today with you to understand a bit more about the mind and how things operate with it. I would like to welcome you to the stream again. I guess I mean you're practically the only one we invite over here, so I don't think we may need to introduce you all over again. But please do share. There may be some updates that you may have had in the recent past that you may want to share as part of the introduction.
Okay. So thank you, Sachin, for having me. Always a pleasure in the conversation that we have. Yeah, I think we've had our introduction multiple times on each other's platforms, so I think that's a good to go thing. But just to summarize, I am Nitin. I am the CEO of iChar's. Updates in this week, we have launched the Meet Goals app finally, which means that the app is available for emotional mental well-being. It includes guided meditations, it includes structured breakthrough programs, and certain thought restructuring processes and activities. As a part of our first version, we have some interesting big plans for the app coming forward, but we will get into that probably in the coming episodes. But again, thank you for inviting me. And the topic that we have today is really everything revolving around what we do. So great to be here.
Wonderful. I think we may need to be looking at breaking this down into two or three sessions at least. So let's start off with, I mean, the topic over here is hypnosis. I think it's, before I was introduced to you and iChars, I think even I had a very, very limited understanding of what hypnosis is. It was something I used to be really excited for as a child growing up when when you come to know about Vashikaran and getting to know how people can take control over other people's mind and make them do things. Or I think what fascinated me was people remembering stuff. I think growing up for me it was all about, like, the people were shown the clock or something, and then they fall into this whatever sleep or hypnotic state, and in that state they were able to remember a lot of stuff, and it was really intriguing for me. It felt dangerous for me when I was, when I saw it at that time, like, oh my god, if someone has this power uh to do these things, can he not then manipulate those thoughts inside? Like, it felt like someone getting access to something so private. And this fear in that child me was like, what if they mess around with that, right? It practically felt like that the person was in that person's head, whatever that means to a child. And I was like, okay, so this is exciting. But then, you know what, growing up I also kind of started feeling like it was all a humbug, because then you started seeing these shows or these roadside things where people are expected to, like, oh, this person has just gone to sleep, and oh, and now suddenly they're acting like a monkey or whatever, whatever. And I felt that was just complete bull, because I knew when human being, like, I couldn't believe that this was happening. I just felt like these guys are just being paid actors, right? And so the fascination that I had had, and this almost fear and awe that I had had towards hypnosis, kind of was replaced with this, Abe yaar, what is this? So it's not something that, like, even someone can pursue as a skill or pursue as an art. Or in my life, it used to feel like the dark arts, but there was certain pull that I felt towards it. So there was this disappointment that kind of came along, because I felt like that was how hypnosis is, or how every hypnosis is. I did some readings where post that I found out that, okay, during hypnosis people may even have false memories and stuff, because I've seen how some court cases, they had used hypnosis and suddenly hypnosis was everything, and then suddenly it was also the villain. Like, okay, actually, this can be just supplanted thoughts, or the person was just motivated through whatever means. So then it was easier for me to then not think about hypnosis. Like, it never kind of came across. And then come to 2020, and I was going through my own personal Nightmare? No, I mean, I think my own personal, moment of uh, self check or whatever you may want to consider. Um, and it was during this time I kind of organized my what is the priority for me in my life, what are the things I want to invest my time in, my attention in, my efforts in. So all of these changes were happening in my life, and I realized that I really wanted to help people. And and one of the things that I felt capable in was that I was able to elucidate more complex things. I knew that I had that in me, that I can simplify complex situations, problems to people. And I was looking for a life coaching or a coaching. Life coaching as well was a bit of a humbug for me, because it felt like, it just felt like you guys, not you guys, it felt like there are people who are just snooty, who think that they are too good for others, and they are now going to tell you how to live your life, right? This is your first understanding of like a self life coach is like a self-help book but in a human form. And I didn't resonate with it, and that's not what I wanted to be. But somehow I came across your organization. I read so much about it, to be honest, and then we had this talk. I think we were you had me over for the suicide prevention talk for ICHAs, and I think we interacted much more freely. And I kind of began to understand. Look, hold on, wait a minute. It doesn't seem all that hogwashy or glamorous or all that in your face. You seem like one of the most down to earth, humble, brilliant guy. Those quiet, brilliant people that are around us. So for me, it was like, okay, I want to know more, and you gave me the opportunity, and I got to experience it firsthand. And I obviously I'm not looking at it as a religion or again as a superpower or any of these things, right? And I hope all of those things we are able to uncover with the conversation that we have with you today. I've just kind of shared my
Super.
personal journey, because I feel like that is something that a lot of people may be at different stages of, where I am or I was. There would be people who may relate to different parts of it, and I felt maybe this is where we bring in the master themselves, and you can let me know about what hypnosis truly is.
Super. So, Sachin, the journey that you've shared is more or less the journey of every person who has at some point been interested in exploring hypnosis, right? Because the word, whether you like it or not, creates fascination. So the first thing is, all right, what is this? Is this really real? Can something like this happen? Uh, what are the potential possibilities? So it starts from there. Then as you start researching on it, the first thing that you see is the gimmicks because they are more prominently promoted, projected.
Right.
And those gimmicks then have a tendency to kind of bring down the excitement, the curiosity, and at the same time, it it has that feeling that maybe this is just uh, too good to be true,
Right.
right? And then something else you go into the journey where you realize, all right, so let me just explore this. And that's when people actively start exploring, not purely from the fascination point of view, but from a point of view of can I really incorporate this in my life to be able to help myself and help other people? So this journey is a journey that almost everyone has gone through. I've gone through, almost all my participants have gone through, you've gone through, right? Uh, you used a lot of this to describe me right now. I had a very interesting conversation yesterday where someone told me that Nitin, you are a buzzkill. And I mentioned, explain. And she said, you know what? I come to you with these fascinating ideas about life, and I tell you, she's a student, so we were having a conversation. Like, when I to you about hypnosis and kya kar sakte hain, and then you explain it in such simple terms, and you realize, this is what hypnosis was. Yesterday, we were talking about something called SC. She talked about somatic anchoring. And she was like, I've heard something new. It's so fascinating. It's so nice. And then when she finished, I asked her, in what you have learned, do you not already use this? And then she thinks. is, we do ask people for what happens in their body, what is the sensation like, and so on. Well, so what is the difference between what you're already doing and what you have heard me?
Hmm.
She said, and now you're making me sound stupid. So the thing is, one of the things I realized is the fascination comes from the word and the power that hypnosis really offers you.
Hmm.
But the biggest mysticism comes from the fact that people don't understand that the power is not in hypnosis. It's not something additional or extra that you're doing. It's an experience that you're going through on a day-to-day basis. It's just that you don't realize you, right? So let me first just define what hypnosis is for the sake
Or
of
should
simplicity.
we probably also start with what hypnosis is not?
Okay.
What do you think about that?
So
Because there is so that we can probably be the buskills of a lot of people who may be just going through the video, but just killing the buzz there itself, like all this excitement and things that are built up for a concept that can be well understood by absolutely any layman and be able to utilize it for their own self and for helping others as well. So the so yes, please kill the buzz.
sure. So before I go ahead, just for all of you, while I'm saying that some of the things that I'm going to tell you will actually act like a buzz killer because all of a sudden that mysticism will go away. But at the same time, you have to understand there are other things that are really fascinating about hypnosis. It's not what it is, it's not what you can do with it, but understanding hypnosis really helps you understand how our mind works, how behavior operates. And once you start understanding that, the fascination that you will have with understanding people and their behaviors, to be able to see those minute things that influence people in the day-to-day life is immense. So there's a lot to be fascinated about, but probably not the things that you're feeling fascinated about right now. To come to the question you asked, Sachin, what is hypnosis not? So it is not a tool to control someone's mind.
So
Let's begin from there.
if I go to an expert hypnotist like you yourself, and how much chance is there that I will not end up having a core belief that will end up me killing someone 20 years from now when I hear the word cow cow go back or something like that, and that will trigger something in me and I'm gonna go kill someone.
Okay. Uh, if you want to kill someone and you're coming because you want to develop the confidence to kill someone, then probably I will be able to help you do that. Though I may not take up the case as a separate issue, right? Because what I'm working with over there is not your desire to kill. I'm not making the choice whether you should kill someone or not. What I'm working with is to help you develop a confidence for what you want to do. Now, it can be anything that you want to do that you're not able to.
So it is
But
not
can I?
something.
But
Sorry, it was just that. So it does not mean that a hypnotist can plant an idea that the person does not or has not thought of or cares for, but suddenly is planted in them and it is kept like a little time bomb, because this is how all these conspiracy theories kind of come out, right? Like, again, I had maybe a weird childhood, so I would have these Russian spies who are going to US, and suddenly 20 years later they hear something, and suddenly I think it's a movie plot somewhere, and they hear something and suddenly it gets triggered because they were hypnotized as something. And so yes, is this possible? Does this happen?
okay, so that's what was the next thing that I was coming to. That so while I can help you do what you want to do, I can't make you do something that you don't want to. Okay, and that's the big distinction. Where I want to become a spy and I want to do whatever it takes as a spy to protect my country. Now I'm scared about certain things. I don't have certain skills, and I want someone to use hypnosis with me to help me overcome that fear, develop that courage, and also be able to develop the skills required to understand what needs to be done. Right? Can hypnosis be used over there? The answer is yes. But I don't want to be a spy. I don't want to kill anyone. Can I use hypnosis to make them a spy and kill someone? No. So that's the big difference. That the choice is in the hands of the person who is choosing to go to the hypnotist. Right now, there could be another way of looking at it, where someone may argue that Nitin, can I use religion as a tool and combine that with hypnosis to brainwash someone? Right? So the way to look at it would be I cannot make someone follow a religion based on hypnosis.
Right.
That is the choice. Now, once they make a choice to follow a particular religion, if they find a guru that they really look up to,
Hmm.
and that guru gives them an interpretation of that religion, which they are willing to buy, right? Then, yes, repetitively through conditioning, you can influence a person, but then the backdrop is the religion,
Hmm.
right? And I am the one choosing to follow that religion.
So you're just causing maybe a misinterpretation of it, but isn't that almost like
So
planting an
I no, so I am not no, so I am not causing a misinterpretation. I am giving an interpretation which the other person has chosen to agree.
Hmm.
And once they've agreed with it, then that becomes the basis for me to be able to help them do certain things that they want to do because they've agreed with the original premises. Right? Take the example. Um, most religions have metaphors and stories, right? That can be interpreted in different ways.
Hmm. Right.
Uh, certain stories can be interpreted as what matters is the end goal.
Hmm.
And whatever you do to achieve the end goal, as long as the end goal is in the interest of everyone else,
Right.
right, is fine.
Hmm.
Now, if I have into this idea and I want to do something which I think will eventually lead to the greater good,
Right. Then you can be
but
become.
in between, correct. Now, that is it. But that choice of accepting the idea
Hmm.
that this greater good is more important than the routes I am taking to achieve the greater good,
Hmm.
right? That was a choice that the person made. So a simpler way of putting it across is, and probably this is the easiest for people to understand what hypnosis is. When you watch a movie,
Hmm.
there's a scene playing on the screen.
Hmm.
Let's say on that screen someone dies. While you're watching a movie, you know that is a movie. You know the person in the movie is not dead. They're actually being paid to play dead.
Right. They could be
And
sitting
yet you
right.
look at this dying, they could be sitting right next to you watching the same movie. And yet you have tears rolling down your eyes. Right? Now, why are you crying? Because that scene in the movie has been able to bypass your critical logical reasoning temporarily to
Hmm.
influence something far deeper in you,
Right.
which controls your emotional state.
Hmm.
And it's that emotional state that is making me cry.
Right.
Now you can argue that Nitin isn't the movie manipulating me to cry. The answer is yes, but whose choice was it to go and sit and watch the movie? And whose choice is it to continue sitting and watching the movie? At any point, I could have got up and walked out of this theater.
Right.
At any time, I could have just decided to close my eyes and go off to sleep. But the
Right.
fact that I went to watch that movie,
Hmm.
and while that scene is playing on the screen, I'm choosing to engage with it. Right? That is a choice that I have. The movie is not taking that choice away from me. Now, once I choose and I continue to choose to engage with the movie,
Hmm.
then that engagement will influence me. It's like any other thing, right? Any people, any person that you're talking to. If that person is having a conversation with you and if you continue talking to them, listening to them, engaging with them, there will be places where their ideas will influence you, your ideas will influence them.
Hmm.
Right? But no one asks you to continue the engagement. No one forced you to continue the engagement. This is the big difference between willingness and control. That the steering wheel, the choice, is always in the hand of the person who is being hypnotized.
Right.
Whether they choose to go in the same direction, engage in the same direction or not, is a choice that they have. Then you can't blame the hypnotist for this.
Right. Right.
You can, but that really doesn't take us anywhere.
Hmm. Sure. I mean, so essentially, nothing can be hypnotically inserted in your mind, or anything can be changed in your mind unless you kind of allow it. But then, when there are conditions or ideas, ideologies, philosophies that you may be taken over already by, if I were to put it that way, if that is already uh, part of your sense of reality, then it does become a bit more easier for people in positions of power to maybe use that position to some degree of influence.
Correct. But even if you were not to call it hypnosis, and day-to-day life, isn't that true?
True,
That's how.
exactly. So when we are able to see that this is exactly what is happening across all levels of all spheres of our life, this is happening when we are watching a movie, when we are watching a game, when we are, all of these different things that we are kind of involving in, which is sensory in nature, and then where we can lose ourselves in, is essentially how you have kind of helped explain what hypnosis or a hypnotic state is in a way. But then it's more about getting more clarity in this
Correct.
state where,
So,
yeah, go on.
so what I'm also clarifying is hypnosis is not something that someone necessarily needs to do to you. You are at any given point of time during a day experiencing a hypnotic state multiple times.
So can
So,
I
what the
maybe.
study, the thing is, what the study of hypnosis does is it is only helping you understand what is already happening, and it is
Perfect.
providing you a structure to recognize that all right, this is how people have been able to influence others. These are the conditions under which people can be influenced. And now I can use that study, that understanding, like any other study, to have more practical applications of it.
Right. So would one simplistic way of defining a hypnotic state be a state where one is involved or engaged with their emotions into their present moment, in their present moment, where they are engaged completely, without a conscious barrier or a conscious wall as such, if that makes any sense.
So that will be one way of looking at it. But the
Right.
more simplistic definition, which probably captures the overall essence of hypnosis, is it is a process that helps you connect your conscious with your unconscious.
Right.
What does that really mean? From a very simplistic example point of view, let's say I want to quit smoking. Consciously, I've decided I want to quit,
Mm-hmm.
right? But every time I look at the cigarette, something happens,
Mm.
and I'm not able to.
Mm.
Many times, I don't even realize my hand has a mind of its own. It goes, picks up the cigarette, I start smoking, and I realize,
Mm.
फिर से
Mm.
फूक लिया.
Mm.
So now what's happening? Consciously, I made a choice. I want to quit,
Mm.
but something inside me that I am not able to control consciously is preventing me to from implementing the conscious choice. Fair enough.
Right.
So whatever it is inside me that I am not able to control consciously. So conscious, the opposite becomes unconscious.
So over here, this unconscious is more like an emotional urge. Would.
The unconscious is what is controlling the emotional urge.
Right.
Emotional urge could be uh,
Ways it
one
is.
of the driving forces driven from the unconscious.
Right.
Right? It could be emotions. It could be thought patterns. At times, it's just impulsive behavior. where you don't, there's no emotion, there's no thought, you don't even realize it. Your body almost has a mind of its own. You take an action, and then later on, you're wondering, why did I do this?
Hmm.
Right? So therefore, the reason I don't want to categorize the unconscious only from the point of view of emotion is it because it's too limiting a definition. But
No, fair.
unconscious is anything that we are doing on an autopilot, which we are consciously not driving. It can be thoughts, it can be emotions,
Right.
it can be behavior, it can be any other thing.
Right. So, but
Right?
there is a sense of unconsciousness to it, where it's not a deliberate, conscious decision making that is driving the response. It is much more intrinsic.
Okay. It's much more intrinsic, but I'll create one more distinction over there for
Go for it.
people's sake of clarity. So there is conscious effort and there's conscious awareness.
Right.
These are two different things that people confuse.
Hmm.
For example, when I learn to drive a car, I am consciously aware of the fact that I'm learning to drive a car
Hmm.
and I'm consciously putting an effort to drive a car. Because I literally need to sit and think where is the steering, where is the
Right.
gear,
Hmm.
how far is the steering from the gear, at what angle do I need to move my feet so that I can play with the accelerator, the brake, and the clutch. So all
Right.
of those are conscious choices, are conscious choices that are being executed through conscious effort.
Right.
And that is what makes learning how to drive so difficult.
Hmm.
Because there are so many calculations that beyond the point of consciousness says, I can't. Till you reach a point where you've driven a car once, twice, thrice, four times, five times, till you reach a place where while you're driving, you're consciously aware. You know there are cars coming from the other side.
Hmm.
But the act of driving is unconscious.
Hmm.
You're not consciously putting an effort and thinking, abhi kaun se gear mein gaadi hai? Do I need to change the gear or not? How quickly do I need to press the brake? So there is conscious awareness of what I'm doing. So to
Hmm.
that extent, I'm mindful,
Hmm.
but I'm not putting a conscious effort.
Hmm.
So from a very behavioral point of view, hypnosis is that state where I don't need to consciously put an effort to do something. It's almost like things are happening on autopilot, though I
Right.
may or may not be consciously aware of it.
Right. So.
Now, this was an example of behavior. Just one little example also to expand on this slightly.
Hmm.
They can also be thoughts.
Hmm.
So there are some places where I sit and I do an affirmation.
Right.
Affirmation is conscious thinking. I've consciously chosen what sentence I want to repeat in my mind, and I'm using it repetitively.
Right.
Right? Then second is where there are certain thoughts running in my mind which I'm not even aware of.
Hmm.
So I'm not consciously creating those thoughts,
Hmm.
not aware of them, but they're
Hmm.
still playing in my mind.
Hmm.
So this is automated thought patterns which are both
Hmm.
coming from the unconscious
Hmm.
and are not even aware, I'm not even aware of them at a conscious level.
Right.
And then is the third part
Hmm.
where through mindfulness,
Hmm.
I may learn to observe my thoughts,
Hmm.
which means the thought is still getting generated automatically. I'm not consciously creating it, it's coming from the unconscious. But I'm consciously aware of the fact that there is an unconscious thought that is coming in my mind.
Wonderful. So this
So this distinction is extremely important.
perfect. So this way you have kind of explained how the hypnotic state can be behavior led, thought led, emotion led. So different ways that this can be approached. Hypnotic state is something that a person experiences, and essentially study of hypnosis is the study of this state, how to access, how to use it to help ourselves, help others, and I feel like that has been beautifully explained. So it is not about making you jump 10 floors. It is not about doing anything that you are not aware of. Hypnotist is not able or going to be doing things to you which you are not aware of. It's not about making you go to sleep. You're not there completely, and in that time they kind of mess with your head and plant thoughts. So these are not the things that kind of happen in hypnosis. So this is the humbug that we have to buzzkill. uh, but
Just
now,
just to add one small thing to this. If it
right,
was possible to plant suggestion in people's mind to make them do whatever you wanted them to do, no hypnotist would ever need to work ever again.
right.
The fact that hypnotists have to work is an indicator that you can't plant ideas. Otherwise, all you need to do is find one super rich person and tell them, hand over your entire property to me.
So this is
Doesn't
again,
work that way.
so perfect. So this kind of does the myth busting out of the way, right? Like, because these are all the things that hypnosis is not. But then we are also not talking about some fun thing here. This is a very experientially true state that one experiences. It's a very powerful state. It's a very useful state. It's a very productive state. So different ways, and it's a very dangerous state as well. Like the way it is powerful, it is equally dangerous. So and again and again, when we are talking about the state, the common word that kind of comes up is the unconscious, right? And this is again, I think, for if it's a lay person hearing this, it's like, again, I feel like this is such overused, or being a word that is colloquially so misrepresented often. Again, some magical element kind of comes into it. So if you could just help us break down between this conscious and unconscious, what do you mean by that? Probably around mind, and how this conscious part of the mind or unconscious part of the mind, what does it kind of mean, or help them visualize this part a bit more.
Okay. So there are a few ways in which you can understand unconscious because the understanding of unconscious has also evolved over a period of time.
Right. So we have Jung saying it, talking about it. So there are a lot of different schools of thought who have approached or spoken about it. I think to some degrees, Indian philosophy may also be talking about it, but it's more to do with mind and functions and activities and fluctuations
So
than an
actually,
unconscious.
actually the Indian philosophy or the Eastern philosophy, let's put it this way,
Sure.
has been talking about the unconscious from time immemorial,
Right.
right? But before I come to that, let's just go step by step. So the term unconscious primarily became prominent and popular because of Freud,
Mm.
who started talking about this more extensively. And to that extent, he did, you have to give him a credit for the fact that he introduced
Popularized.
an idea.
Yeah.
He introduced an idea which was before this, people thought it's all about what you're choosing consciously. And all of a sudden, there was this man who came and told you that, well, nothing that you're doing is conscious. The problem with Freud's understanding of unconscious is that it's very, or at least the way people understand Freud's understanding of unconscious, is that it's the dark, dingy space in your mind that you need to avoid because it has all your deepest, darkest secrets.
And
It has
everything
all of those desires that are not good for you, which are against the social values, moral values. All of that comes from the unconscious, right? Now, that is a bit of a problem.
That's why Jung kind of differed from him and started his own thing. It cannot be just this dark, dingy space.
Correct. Now, eventually, when Jung started his own school of thought and so on, and they brought in the concept of universal consciousness, the collective unconscious, right? That is the idea that the collective unconscious is the collective pool of everyone's unconscious together, right? But it's not dingy, dark, something to be avoided. It
Avoided.
can be an incredible, powerful source of information, of wisdom. Now relate it back to what the Eastern philosophies have been saying from time immemorial. How many times you've heard people telling you, listen to yourself. You already have all the answers you need. हमने सुना है मतलब I as long as I remember
Malayali, they
some
call it
Guruji, some other.
Manasakshi. So your inner witness.
So listen to that inner witness, listen to that inner voice. And when I used to hear this, this would really make me go bonkers. Because I would keep wondering, right now, whom am I listening to? And what do you mean by listen to yourself?
When did I
Right?
stop speaking, and when is this other voice kind of taking over?
And then I would also be told कि तुम बिना सोचे काम कर लेते हो. So when I'm listening to myself and I'm doing things, you're saying बिना सोचे काम कर लेते हो. So should I listen to myself and act upon it? Should I listen to myself, analyze and act upon it, or should I just discard it? No one seems to be giving me clearer picture about this. With spiritual gurus, when you were to speak to them, they will tell you do meditation. Meditation will help you listen to your inner voice. Okay? But no one really, when I spoke to them and I asked them, no one really gave me a very structured process to help me understand how to connect to that inner voice. One of the reasons why I get so fascinated about hypnosis is because it gave me a process to listen to that inner voice, to distinguish between which is that inner voice and which is that analytical, logical analysis that I'm coming to. Right? So the difference between what I really am wanting to do, as opposed to what I think what I want to do.
Hmm.
I hope this makes it. This is clear, right?
I'll summarize this.
And
Yes.
and that's what fascinates me most about hypnosis. It gives you the process. It gives you that tool.
No, perfect. So if I can just, so when we are talking about the unconscious here, we are essentially talking about a part of the human mind, and we have to kind of attach some level of tangibility of existence to it, I feel. Because again, with mind, even now when I'm doing any training with anyone for that matter, I'm having to begin with the conversation. What do you think mind is? And a lot of people are still thinking of it as like it is my brain, it is my heart, or it is my soul, and that it is just a different way to kind of call it. So the ignorance is at a very high level in terms of just, and by that I don't mean ignorant as a bad word here. It's the lack of information that, the information that people didn't have access to, which means that there is something known as your mind. It is existing, and this particular mind has a conscious element to it and an unconscious deeper element to it, which is not necessarily visible to us or accessible to us that freely. Now hypnotic state, or a very in and which another way to kind of call it is a very deep meditative state, because again, when I say meditation, it is such an overused term. It never really means one thing, which you were kind of bringing out when you said you have spoken to different gurus to be able to access this inner voice. So sure, there are people who may have been able to access it through various ways, but kind of, is there a foolproof way? Is there a physical step by step thing that can be done? Is there a process that we can associate with, that is a bit not reliant on your mood or anything, but something that you can do to be able to access this unconscious and be able to utilize its raw power, right? Like, this is when you get access to it, it is source of healing too, so and a very big source of power as well. Now that is what you go through the state, like going through a hypnosis would involve that, going into that state, accessing your unconscious, which exists, and this inner voice, and it can be a much more meaningful relationship that you can have with it.
Okay. So let me first thoda sa take a step back and break this down a bit.
Mm,
So what happens in a hypnotic state? And why are we talking about hypnosis in the context of healing and change?
right.
Right? So remember this example that we spoke about smoking. So I want
Right.
to quit smoking. I am
Mm-hmm.
not able.
Mm,
Consciously, I've made a choice. My unconscious, for whatever reason,
mm,
is still indulging in automated behaviors which are not in sync with my conscious choice.
right.
Now, why would this be happening? So, what are the just logically? One is I made a decision consciously, probably the unconscious has not received that information.
Mm,
That's the simplest way to look at it. So,
right.
because the decision maker is different and the decision implementer is different, unless that information gets transferred from the decision maker to the decision implementer. The decision implementer is just doing what it has always been doing.
Right. So
So
this is the part.
sometimes,
Yeah, go on, go on.
so sometimes, our beliefs, our past experiences, what we call as our critical analytical reasoning,
Hmm.
comes in the way of the information being sent from the conscious to the unconscious. To
Right.
give you an example, let's okay, so let's continue with smoking itself. So I've decided I want to quit smoking.
Hmm.
But the first time when I smoked,
Hmm.
I made a choice to smoke.
Right.
I've repetitively been smoking every day or every alternate day after that.
Right.
So my mind needed a reason to accept and acknowledge the idea that if I'm choosing to smoke, smoking would be good for me.
Right.
Otherwise, how can it let me do what it has been letting me do all these years? It was bad
Right.
for me.
Hmm.
So consciously, I've made a choice. I want to quit smoking right now. But my belief tells me that every time in the past I've smoken, I have had a smoke, it has helped me relax. It has helped me feel lighter. So smoking is good for me.
Hmm.
So my belief is smoking is good for me.
Hmm.
My decision is that I want to quit smoking. The information reaches my belief system, and my belief system says rubbish. You have been smoking for all these years. Every time you are stressed, you smoke and you feel relieved. How can you say smoking is bad for you? So now, because of those repetitive experiences in the past that have formed my belief system is not even letting this new decision enter into my unconscious.
Right.
It's almost like an aberration one that it wants to start.
Right.
Right? So now, if the information has not even reached the unconscious,
Hmm.
what do I need? I need a process to bypass this belief system
Hmm.
so that this information can reach the unconscious. This is one part of hypnosis.
Perfect.
It's the process to bypass our critical reasoning, our belief systems, so that whatever I decide consciously
Hmm.
can become a part of the unconscious.
Perfect.
Okay,
So
before I go ahead, let me know if you're yeah.
right, right. So, I mean, again, so this is about, I want to ensure that, visually we are holding the thread together, right? So, where we were able to see that there is mind, there is the conscious element to it, and an unconscious element to it. Now, you added further character to that part, where the conscious element that we are talking about, that we are deciding, this is the decision making part. The conscious element is just the decision making part, and I think, and the unconscious bit is the decision implementation part. Now this is a very crucial differentiation that you have kind of made. Yes, it doesn't take away that consciously as well you can do stuff or implement stuff, but that would involve conscious effort, which was as a concept you kind of explained previously. So if you want to do something consciously, you will need to put in conscious effort, which is high tax, because it involves a lot of your focus, lot of attention, lot of skills and maneuverability, lot of time. So ideally, as an efficiency machine that we are, we would rather it become a unconscious process. So we will repeat those things and we will make it part of our unconscious. And how we make it part of our unconscious is through this training. Either it can be trauma induced as well, or it can be through conscious practice, whichever way. But what happens is, the moment we are doing this transfer of going into the unconscious, so first the part was of that cigarette smoking, to for it to develop into a habit. What happened was, earlier I may not have had any significant thought around smoking itself, but then through conscious repetitive and positive reinforcement, whatever you have done, but you have maintained that regular practice, you have made it part of your unconscious. How? By making a belief around it, that this, for example, the example that you used, helps me calm down, gives me relief, right? Whichever small thing that it may be sounding like a very small thing, but for something to get into your unconscious, it essentially means you need to create a cap over it, and this cap is what the belief that you develop is, or the critical
So
filter, critical reasoning that you're. Yeah,
So slight
go for
variation.
it.
So the cap itself gets created based on past experiences. So if I have to like give you a sequence,
Right.
I have never had a cigarette in my life earlier. Today I
Hmm.
see my friend smoking, and one of my friends tells me when I have exams and I'm very stressed, I smoke
Hmm.
and it provides me with relief. If you are stressed, एक बार try.
Hmm.
So I take the first puff.
Hmm.
I cough. My body is literally telling me this is bad for you,
Hmm.
right? But
Hmm.
I look at my friend, but then you will start realizing the power of it. So I say, all right, because I'm
Hmm.
stressed right now, exam hai, prepare karna hai. So I take a couple of cigarettes, couple
Hmm.
of puffs, and then I
Hmm.
start feeling lighter because of whatever impact that cigarette creates in my mind. Now, every
Hmm.
time I'm feeling stressed, I smoke. So after
Hmm.
the five, six, seven experiences like this, my
Hmm.
mind starts realizing that you know what, if he's chosen to do this repetitively,
Hmm.
then maybe he has a reason behind it,
Right.
right? So because of those repetitive experiences that I've started to indulge in consciously, now my mind is coming to this conclusion that you've done it long enough for me to recognize that what you're saying is right.
Right. Long
It's now
enough,
created
even in
relief around
spite of, right. Right.
it. Long enough, impactful enough, whichever way.
Even when you
Now, once
want
this has
to,
happened,
even when you and even when you are having some issue, pain towards it, so even in spite of you having an, maybe even associating it with a reward, so different ways where you have kind of different ways you have shown smoking to be something that is helped you in some way. If that is the conclusion that you have kept on giving to your mind, and through repeated use as well, your mind kind of builds a belief around that to protect that habit itself, right? In a way where
correct.
that is where the belief is being created, that no, intrinsically now I have taken it that this is something that I like or is good for me. So positive
It's good for me.
association is developed unconsciously with the habit, whatever it may be, consciously, even in spite of us consciously knowing that this is bad for us. And this development is that critical filter. It becomes part of the critical filter. Now, when it becomes an established, once it becomes an established fact for the unconscious, now any alternate conscious thought I may have in towards changing it, right, it will be met with a very unconscious yet a very powerful rejection as well, right? Rejection, avoidance, exaggeration, or whichever way.
So
Yes,
think
go ahead.
of critical
Hmm.
filter as the gatekeeper,
Hmm.
right? So you have the conscious, then you have the unconscious. In between, there's a gatekeeper that's deciding what information will go into the unconscious, information will not go into the unconscious.
Right.
Critical filter is that gatekeeper that has automated rules to decide
Hmm.
which information will seep into the unconscious, which information will not.
Right.
Any information that is in sync with existing beliefs will seep in,
Hmm.
right? So, for example, if I have been told constantly you're good for nothing, tell it first time my father said this to me, I probably would have said and thought, why is he saying this?
Hmm.
But then I realized he's right. Second time, third time, fourth time, by the fifth time, when my father says you're good for nothing, and I look and I say, yeah, every time he says it, he's right actually. I've been constantly making mistakes. So now because of that repetition, a belief
Hmm.
in future, whenever someone tells me you're not good enough, sorry, you're not, yes. So when someone tells me you're not good enough, is that in sync? The answer is
Yeah.
yes. The information will go in. But if someone comes and tells me तूने कितना अच्छा काम किया, in sync with the critical filter?
No.
No. So my mind starts looking at कुछ तो गड़बड़ है. I am
Hmm.
not good enough. So if he's
Hmm.
telling me I have done good work,
Hmm.
either this was by fluke. So I
Hmm.
will tell people who have इतना किस्मत अच्छी थी मेरी कल. Or I would feel that maybe he's trying to say this to me because he's some work. So I'm directly asking him, सीधे बोलना काम क्या है देखो. So the contradictory information is not being accepted by my mind, even if it's factually correct, because the critical filter, the gatekeeper, is saying, sorry, my past experiences, my past belief tells me this is not right. So
Perfect.
I can't allow it to seep into the mind.
Right. And now when we are talking about hypnosis, is essentially a methodology to be able to bypass this essential critical filter, or be able to, so it can be called as a bypass, or being able to reach a state where you are not having critical filter. You are able to just simply have an access. Would that be because
So
your essential belief
I
systems
wouldn't
are
say not having. So I wouldn't say not having a critical filter because critical filter carries multiple things,
right?
but specific to what change you want to create. So, for example, if I'm working with you and
Hmm,
I want to quit smoking,
hmm,
then when you're inducing me in a hypnotic state, you want only the beliefs related to smoking to be bypassed,
hmm,
right? There are a lot of other beliefs in my system which still are important.
hmm,
Therefore, my conscious willingness becomes important. I come to you, I tell you that I want to quit smoking.
hmm,
You guide me in a hypnotic state. Hypnosis is giving you the ability to bypass that aspect of the critical filter,
hmm.
which
Right,
would have contradicted the information that you want to give me about about cigarettes.
right,
Right? The other aspects of critical filter are still in place
right,
because it's also keeping you safe.
right. So, Nitin,
Right?
because
Um,
go on, go on.
this is one part of the story. That the critical, yes, the technical definition for hypnosis will be it's a process to help you bypass the critical filter.
Right.
But bypass the critical filter for what purpose? So there are two purposes.
Okay.
One is what I said to you earlier that we are bypassing the critical filter so that the information from the conscious can go into the unconscious,
Hmm.
right? But then there is the other thing that happens
Okay.
where you transfer the information to the conscious. Unconscious is aware of the information and yet chooses to ignore the information.
Oh, even that can happen.
Correct. So now, why would the unconscious
Hmm.
ignore an information that is being sent to it?
Because it has
Because
a
the
different
unconscious,
information. Right. Go on.
correct. Because the unconscious has more information available with it than the conscious has. So conscious is looking at a strategy from a
Hmm.
very limited point of view that all right, cigarette harms me.
Hmm.
Critical filter has come to that place where it says that all right, smoking has helped me relax. So it's good for me. But once you bypass the critical filter and you reach the unconscious, while the unconscious recognizes that you want to quit smoking, it also recognizes, but you don't have an alternate way of relaxing yourself.
Right.
So if I were to help you quit smoking,
So can I put it that way? The unconscious realizes how important relaxing is for you.
how important relaxing is for you, and it recognizes you don't have another way to relax but cigarettes.
Right.
So if I take this strategy from you, either you will not be able to relax, which would mean that the consequences of not smoking may actually be worse than
Right.
smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Or second, that because you don't have a better way of becoming relaxed, you may quit smoking, but you may end up taking up weed or alcohol,
Hmm.
right? Which may actually be even more dangerous.
There you go.
So it's trying to keep you in status quo to help you realize that something needs to be done before you can quit this.
And this is where majority of people get stuck, right? Because this is where some conscious effort again needs to be put in, right?
Actually, no. So it's not necessary that you need to put a conscious effort. But the point
Okay.
is, for example, the moment you connect with the unconscious, you can also make the unconscious support you in your effort to create a new habit. Eventually, it's a behavior, right? The current behavior of smoking is also being controlled by the unconscious. So the
Right.
unconscious can control the behavior of smoking. It can also control other alternate behavior which is good for you.
Right. So
But
I
it
mean,
needs to know what
right.
the alternate behavior is. It needs to explore what those alternate behaviors are.
Exactly. And this is where that conscious effort I'm talking about, like to go ahead and put that time and investment in finding a new way to kind of relax yourself or help yourself or take breaks or whatever different way, and having that same positive association with that other thing as well. So we have reached
Or
this,
or or
or
or the time and effort required to at least connect with the unconscious to ask the unconscious, which are what can I replace cigarette smoking with? At times it can be as simple as this, where
mm,
the answer may already be available with the unconscious.
mm,
If you just are willing to listen to it, and that's where listening to yourself comes into play. When people have been saying that you need to listen to your inner voice, so the unconscious recognizes, but it can't make a change without your conscious in asking it to make that change,
mm,
right? Unconscious can give you some really incredible insights.
mm,
So think of it in terms of a driver. You book an Uber, you tell the Uber where you want to go.
mm.
Who made that choice?
I
You
hopefully.
consciously, right? I hopefully. So I consciously. That passenger who's making the decision is the conscious,
Right.
right? Who is driving the car to take me to that location?
It would be a
The
driver.
driver. The driver is the unconscious.
Hmm.
Now, if you in the passenger seat tell the driver, I want you to follow route X1, X2, X3, Y, so that we can go from X to Y,
Hmm.
right? It will follow that route. It may have a better route available to it. The driver may know a better, faster, more efficient route. But if you have insisted, then it will stick to the route that you have told it. Now,
Perfect.
let's say the first time you met with the driver, you went from place X to Y, you
Hmm.
told them the route, they followed the route. The
Hmm.
second time they followed the route, the third time they followed the route. By the fifth or the sixth time, the driver knows what route you want him to follow,
Right.
right? Earlier, the driver once tried to follow a different route, and you gave him a big jab. कि तेरे को
Hmm.
किसने बोला नया रास्ता चुनने का?
Hmm.
तेरे को बोला ना X1, X2, X3 करके Y पे जाना है.
Hmm.
So now the driver also realizes that I can't overrule what this person is saying.
Hmm.
So आपने मुझे बोला X से Y पे ले जाओ. In the previous experiences, you have told me that this is the route that I have to follow.
Hmm.
Now, this is a guideline for me, which is my belief that this passenger only wants to take this route.
Hmm.
I take that route. Now I get stuck in a traffic once, and then twice, and then thrice.
Hmm.
The driver is still just taking me through the same route, right? I have not asked the driver for help. And then one day, in my head, I realize, is there another route possible? So I ask the driver.
Hmm.
और दूसरा रूट है क्या जो जा सकते हैं?
Hmm.
मैं बोलता, हाँ सर है दूसरा रूट.
Hmm.
मतलब आधे टाइम में पहुंच जाओगे आप.
Hmm.
And then you're looking at the driver and you think, so why did you not tell me earlier? Because you never asked for it.
Hmm.
So the unconscious in that essence, he knows the alternate ways, but
Hmm.
you need to ask it to give you that wisdom,
Hmm.
right?
So,
And that is the second part of hypnosis, the process to
so
connect to the unconscious so that you can
hmm.
derive wisdoms from it and then see whether you want to apply that or not.
Hmm. No, that's beautiful. I think it gives the listener quite a clear understanding of what exactly this process is. It's not just a simple, that dog and pony show, but it's much more in depth. It's much more process driven. It's and it's a lot. It's not a pseudo science that we are kind of talking about here. This is not about Shumantar karna hai and get those things done there. So it's about understanding these processes very closely to kind of see what these are, how you're able to connect with your unconscious. And again, when we talk about unconscious, please do not kind of conflate it to these magical things. It is something that has a very direct impact on you, and what is the type of relationship you kind of have with that is very telltale on the level of suffering you kind of go through as well. Now, hypnosis as such is not a modality that we are essentially looking to do, but more like a tool that can be utilized by multiple modalities to make their modality more effective. Is something, would that be a statement that makes sense?
So, okay, from the point of view of healing and therapy, people use the terminology hypnotherapy, right? Which I actually don't agree with. I think it's a disservice to both hypnosis and its power and to therapy. Because
Right.
when you call something as hypnotherapy, it gives you an impression as if there is an independent field of therapy called hypnotherapy, which is distinct from all
Exactly.
of it,
Right.
right? Now, what you're really doing is limiting yourself only to those techniques that you have learned under the name of hypnotherapy.
Hmm.
When in reality, It's more of hypnosis therapy. There are multiple ways of inducing hypnotic states. Some ways will work for certain people, some ways will not work for certain people, but there is some way that will work for everyone. Like you just have to find the
Right.
right way for the right person. So
Perfect.
there is hypnosis so that people can connect with their unconscious. And then there's therapy. What do you exactly do once the client is connected to their unconscious so that you can create the desired change? And here you can combine it with any form of therapy. You could combine it with CBT, you can combine it with REBT, you can combine it with spiritual healing, you can combine, well, you name it. If a therapy or healing modality exists, it is already using hypnosis when it's effective. You are just learning to use it more strategically, more effectively, and more based on your learning and leaving it to chance.
And I think this is a very important place where we can kind of wrap up today, because I would like us to kind of continue this conversation, because I would like to look at, because with me it is kind of all kind of goes into crisis intervention and things like that, because the more challenges that I've been kind of experiencing in my space is to do with addiction, and how to deal with that. We are getting a lot of cases where um, where their mental health issues have just not been kind of observed or acknowledged for so long, that it just becomes so much more harder to kind of go and deal with that. So now my main consideration over here is key, this long term um, avoidance of this listening to your inner voice or your unconscious or having a relationship with one is a very predominant, it's the sign of times, it's kind of observable everywhere. So a good awareness should be kind of going to help people kind of understand that there is such a thing, there is such a conversation possible, and how helpful it can truly be. So right from mental health disorders to if you're looking to help improve your own life, your own like I think the best way to approach it, what is your wish, right? What do you want to be in life? And uh, if you are seeking to truly be that, not just saying it to yourself out of as a complaint, but if you are truly trying to be someone, something, be like the true self, the best self, I think hypnosis is a very um, under spoken or mentioned tool that humanity does have. I think it's about we need practitioners who are really good at what it is, and rather turning it into a dog and pony show. And instead of making a quick buck, can we focus on humanity itself and how effective and helpful that it can be for them? And I think any final words that Nitin you want to leave today with, and maybe what can we have, what interesting thing, because this can be directed towards crisis intervention or things like that as well. If you have any thoughts as to what could our next session be on.
So, one, before we end, probably the two things that I would like to share with all of you is this. If you have the mental capabilities to be able to make a decision, then you can use hypnosis to help you achieve that decision or that outcome. Uh, that's what the power of hypnosis is. What you really need is the mental capabilities to be able to make a choice, make a decision, set a goal. Even if you're not able to set a goal, you want to, you have the mental capabilities, but you don't know what your goal should be. Hypnosis can help you define your goals clearly and can help you achieve your goals. Now, whatever that goal is, it could be quit smoking, it could be sleeping better, it could be overcoming procrastination, it could be overcoming addictions, you name it, and hypnosis can be useful over there. Obviously, in combination with appropriate change tools and processes. Second, since we touched upon meditation and so on, so just a food for thought for everyone. Guided meditations, by definition, is hypnosis. Okay. For a moment, consider someone is guiding you through a process to help you have an experience
Hmm.
that you wouldn't have had unless they guided you.
Hmm.
There can't be a simpler, easier, better definition of hypnosis, or at least the hypnotic process. Right? So, just a food for thought for everyone. Where can this conversation go? I really would love to follow this up in the next week with uh, specific issues, trauma, anxiety, crisis interventions, and all the other challenges that we can look at specifically. So maybe first define a broad framework that's applicable more or less to most issues, and
Hmm.
then discuss the nuances of how that framework gets modified for different kinds of problems and different kinds of challenges.
Perfect. I think so. Maybe what we can begin with is just what a most simplistic process of hypnosis can look like, and maybe then expand from there in terms of application wise and processes wise. So brilliant, Nitin. Thank you so much again. It was a very enlightening session with you speaking about hypnosis, and like I've said, I've found you to be one of those quite brilliant guys out there. So getting to hear you speak about this topic that you're passionate about is actually even better for me. I'm getting the what do you say, ringside view of the session of a lecture. So I'm hoping to explore more of this with you in the upcoming sessions as well. So thank you so much, Nitin, for
Thank
taking
you,
time out.
Sachin, and thank you everyone who have been following us, who have been a part of this conversation. If you have any questions, because we will take this conversation forward, please leave it in the comments, and we are sure to take them up in the next session. And thank you, Sachin, for having me once again, and the entire Connected team for organizing this and ensuring that we are able to do this on an ongoing basis.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Nitin.